Today's topic is what's happening with energy in Washington, D.C. Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you once again. Today, I have with me a distinguished energy expert of Washington, D.C., Ted Trabue. He's currently a member of the Regulatory Commission that regulates power and gas utilities in Washington, D.C. So, Ted, let's hear from you what you do, what your commission does, what's happening in Washington, D.C. Over to you.
Thank you very much for having me today, and it's a pleasure to be with you and all of those within the sound of my voice to talk about energy in the District of Columbia. I'm a fourth-generation Washingtonian, and I have enjoyed working in the energy space in this city for over a quarter of a century. We think of our hometown, Washington, D.C., as a relatively small town, but the reality is the District of Columbia is the second largest consumer of energy of all large cities in the United States. Let me repeat that. The second largest consumer of energy of all large cities in the United States. We have the federal government here. We have the metro system.
Wow.
We have the water and... Did you say stop?
No, I said wow.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
We have the Water and Sewer Authority, which is the largest of its type on the Eastern Seaboard. So we have a lot of major sports arenas here. We have a lot of large energy consuming entities within the District of Columbia. I think that it ought to be understood that this is a large hub of energy use on the Eastern Seaboard and throughout the United States. The District of Columbia Public Service Commission has been around for approximately 110 years, regulating the rates and the terms of service for the energy providers and the telephone company here in the District of Columbia. So you're talking about PEPCO, Washington Gas, and Verizon. Most of our telephone services are deregulated at this point. People have cell phone services through a number of different platforms. So there's very little regulation in the telephone space. But in terms of the utilities, PEPCO is still our electric distribution company, as Washington Gas is the natural gas distribution company. And so we have a significant amount of work to do to regulate these entities. Some of this work is very traditional in terms of, 110 years of history of how we regulate our utilities here. Some of the work is very new. I'd really like to discuss three topics today, starting with the new aspect of the work that we do, which is working with the utilities to help the District of Columbia meet its long-term climate goals. As many of you may know, the District of Columbia has set a goal of 50% energy reduction by 2032. This goal was set several years ago, so it's not like we're just starting to work on that right now. And going net zero, which means we really want to be reducing our greenhouse gas emissions in a very significant way to meet global climate goals by 2045. Back in 2008, the city passed a law called the Clean and Affordable Energy Act, which established a third-party independent entity to run the city's energy efficiency and solar programs. That entity is called the DC Sustainable Energy Utility. I had the pleasure of running that organization for its first 11 years of existence. But now, the electric utility and the gas utility have applied to the DC Public Service Commission for permission to run energy efficiency programs that would run alongside the programs that are currently being offered by the DC Sustainable Energy Utility. So one of the new forms of regulation that we are examining right now is how we approve these programs, how we look at the efficiency, the efficacy, the value proposition that these programs represent, and how these programs add to the district's ability to hit its long-term energy goals. Clearly, the programs must be cost-effective and a wise investment of ratepayer funds. We are funded, I should say, the District of Columbia Public Service Commission is funded by surcharges on utility bills. And so it must be understood that all of the work that we do and the work, of course, that's done by the utilities is ratepayer funded. It's not taxpayer funded. So we are an independent organization within the District of Columbia government. The commissioners, there are three commissioners here. I am the newest of the three commissioners. The commissioners are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Council of the District of Columbia. And so I was confirmed in December of last year. The commissioners have 4-year terms. Climate goals are where I'd really like to start. The District of Columbia started really working seriously on greenhouse gas reduction and energy reduction around 2011. The 2008 Clean and Affordable Energy Act required the city to conduct a competitive process to select a vendor to start with the energy efficiency programs here in the city. And so that solicitation was concluded in 2011, and the DC Sustainable Energy started working about that point. Around 2 years ago, PEPCO applied to the commission for permission to run energy efficiency programs that did not duplicate those that were already being offered by the DC Sustainable Energy Utility. Washington Gas, within the last couple of months, has also come forward with similar programs that are not duplicative of those that are already in existence.
So I think Ted, let me just add a point of clarification. The Sustainable Energy Utility, I know, is being supervised by the Energy Office, not by you, right? So that's a separate entity. And what you would be supervising would be programs done by the utilities.
Exactly.
So that we are using both sources of capacity and skill. The energy utility is supervised by the Energy Office of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And you are separately supervising the gas and power utilities without any duplication. Is that
That's
correct?
Exactly right.
Okay,
there has to be coordination between the programs that we supervise and the programs that are supervised by DOEE, so that you don't have duplication.
Right.
And that's one of the important factors that I really want to stress here.
Yeah.
To the viewers that we know that these ratepayer dollars are precious, and we don't want to have duplicate programs and customer confusion out in the marketplace. So we're really trying to make sure that these programs are not duplicative of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so the next part that we really want to look at is, how do we examine any of the work that comes before us here in the commission, be it a rate case, be it an new energy efficiency program. We have to look at affordability for our residential and commercial customers. We have to look at equity. How do we make sure that all of our customers are being served by the programs that are being offered? Clearly, safety and reliability have always been a part of our mandate as a commission, to make sure that we have safe and reliable energy here in the District of Columbia. We know that we have an aging infrastructure in terms of the pipes that are delivering natural gas. There is a clear view, I think, amongst many that we need to look at those cast iron pipes that are underground and make sure that they are not leaking. This is a source of greenhouse gas emissions. There's also a view amongst many others that we should really move away from supporting the replacement of the natural gas pipes and move that effort towards decarbonization in our homes and in our buildings, electrification. Moving towards strategic electrification is a very, very important platform and a methodology by which we hope to overall reduce greenhouse gas emissions here in the District of Columbia. So you can see immediately where you have competing goals between safety, reliability, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
And also competition between the gas and power utility, because you are shifting the customers from gas to electricity, as I understand.
Exactly. Back in 2017, 2018, the Sierra Club came to the District of Columbia and asked to start programs that would essentially not be energy efficiency programs, and effectively fuel switching programs, where we would remove the gas appliances, furnaces, water heaters, stoves from homes and replace those with all electric equipment. A pilot program was started in 2019. The pilot program was expanded into a full-fledged program in 2020, which is now also incorporating multifamily buildings, starting to use some of the federal government stimulus dollars that have been made available to us on a one-time basis, but they're very, very generous amounts of funds that have been made available to us. So we're starting to use some of the federal funds to help replace some of this aging gas equipment and replace it with brand new electric equipment. This will be I would say, multi-year, multi-decade effort to electrify the District of Columbia. Collateral to that, of course, is the expansion of the charging stations that we currently have in the District of Columbia. Currently, there are about 270 electric vehicle charging stations in the city. That's partially good news. And then there's a bit of bad news in that there are probably only a dozen or so charging stations in wards 3, 7, and in wards 5, 7, and 8 combined. Okay. So you look at equity in terms of the distribution of those charging stations, and we want to make sure that through our efforts here and our regulation over the electric utility, that we start to get more charging stations in underserved parts of the city.
Okay, Ted, Ted, I may just say to the viewers who don't know DC so well, that a ward there are 8 wards in Washington, DC. Wards yes. are parts of Washington, DC. And what Ted is saying is that 3 out of the 8 don't have enough charging stations. Is that right?
That's exactly correct.
Right, so that it's not equally distributed, but you would like it to be equally distributed.
Yes. Right. That's one of our goals here.
Okay, good.
To see a better distribution of the
let me also ask you, all this electrification, where is this additional electricity going to come from?
There is not a clear consensus on whether or not the current distribution system can support the load. I think there is consensus that our electric distribution system needs to be upgraded in many respects, not exclusively just to support the electric vehicle charging stations and the new energy efficiency programs or the electrification programs. They're going to bring all the electric equipment in and take the gas equipment out. But you have the third part of the equation as well, which is as we get more and more solar here in the District of Columbia, you have an electric system which was designed to basically move electricity in one direction. That's from the generating stations that are out in the suburbs here into the city. Now we're building small, what are called distributed energy resources, small generating stations, which are the solar systems. Some of them are not so small. Some of them are rather large. You're building them here in the District of Columbia to serve our residents. And now you have to provide the collateral support and the upgrades to the transformers and substations. And so we know that this is going to require some significant upgrades for our electric distribution system as well. So these are, of course, some of the things that we are looking at here at the Public Service Commission, how we equitably distribute the cost of these upgrades, making sure that affordability, safety, and reliability, again, are at the forefront of the considerations that we're making. But a couple of 3 years ago, City Council also passed a law that said that we have to consider our climate goals. Safety, reliability, and affordability have been the mandate of the Commission for 100 years. Climate goals are our newest mandate, and so we're also looking through that lens as well to make sure that the efforts that we undertake here at the Commission are supporting the city's long-term climate goals. And we work exclusively in the energy space. There are a lot of transportation-related issues outside of the charging stations that unfortunately we don't get to touch. We have a lot of tour buses coming in here every day. We have a lot of vehicles coming in with cars, with pollution and everything. We don't touch those aspects, but we do very, very, I think, aggressively regulate that which is within our purview.
Okay.
And we like very much to say that we are a source of, I think, great pride here in the city. We have a lot of experts here on staff. We are growing our climate staff here at the Public Service Commission. I would just put a self-serving advertisement out there. If you are interested in climate regulation, please give us a call. We would love to talk to you. We do have some openings in that new division, and so we are actively looking forward to growing out that new climate action group here at the Public Service Commission.
Okay, Ted, before I let you go, I want to ask you, you talked about affordability.
Yes.
Right? How are the low-income people in Washington, D.C. going to benefit from solar or renewable energy in general? So it's not just the rate, but how are they going to benefit from this new technology?
Yeah, sure. I thank you for that question. About 10 years ago, when I was at the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, we launched a program that is now called Solar for All. The program is specifically designed to help low-income qualified customers get a solar system on their home absolutely free of charge. That's the way the initial design of the program. So if a family of 4, let's say, earns less than about $110,000 a year, you can call the Department of Energy and Environment and get a solar system installed absolutely free of charge on your home. There's no, late fees, or there's no, hidden charges and fees or anything like that. The system is absolutely free of charge, installed on your home. If you are not in an individual house where you could put solar on your roof, the program is now expanded to support community solar projects. So what we do, what the city government does every year is they install about 30 or so community solar projects. These are large solar facilities that are put on tops of warehouses, parking garages. We don't have a lot of open land here, so we don't deploy them in areas like that. But they're larger systems that are put in the city that support between 40 and 200 or 300 families through a subscription. And so you would get a subscription to these solar systems. The subscription is good for 15 years, and it would reduce your electricity bill by about 50% for the next 15 years. You can live in a multifamily building as long as you have a meter in your apartment. You can call the Department of Energy and Environment, get a subscription to one of the community solar systems. At this point, there are over 6,000 families that have subscriptions to the community solar facilities. There are over 1,000 families who have received solar on their homes. The program is growing every year. We encourage anyone who is interested in just saving money on their electric bill. You might not be necessarily interested in solar, but if you're interested in saving money on your energy bill, this is the easiest way to get immediate savings on your energy bill.
Let me just say, for the sake of viewers, multifamily means you live in an apartment.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And of more than 4 units.
Yeah.
More than 4 units.
You live in a big building with lots of people. And how do you put a panel on your roof? You don't have a roof, right? No, you don't have a roof, but you get around this problem by saying, look, we will put it jointly and you will get your share of that. So subscription just means you will get a share of it.
You'll get a share of it.
Right. Okay. It's a very innovative program. I love it. It really goes to poor people who can actually not afford to have single family homes, but are living in rental apartments, or even if they own, even people who don't want to live in a single family home, they can also benefit. So rooftop solar doesn't require you to have your own roof. It's a very nice idea.
And it doesn't matter if you're an owner or a renter.
Right, it doesn't matter.
The program is available to both.
Okay.
Owners and renters. Of course, if you're a renter, you need the landlord's permission.
Right.
But the city will still install solar on that housing. I should also mention, in the low-income community, and this is absolutely free of charge, another program that's very, very important is the electrification program.
Yeah.
Where, again, the city will come in and replace your water heater, your furnace, your stove, absolutely free of charge, and replace them with brand new equipment. The income qualifications are the same for that program as they are for the solar program. But again, there's a significant amount of energy saves. And if you get all new electric equipment in your house, of course, your electric bill is going to go up, your gas bill will go to zero, but the city will give you a subscription to the community solar program. So that's going to then drop your electric bill back down by about 50%.
So this money is coming from a surcharge on the electric bills of people who are well off. Is that correct?
Well, the money is really coming from 3 sources. The first is exactly what you mentioned. There's a surcharge on the bills of all electric, natural gas, and oil customers here in the District of Columbia. The second source of funding are fines that are paid by energy suppliers. There are over 50 energy suppliers who are supplying electricity here in the District of Columbia. All of those suppliers have a requirement to get a certain percentage of their electricity from renewable sources. If they fail to meet that requirement, they have to pay a fine to the city. Those fines are collected by the city and then given to the DC Sustainable Energy Utility so that they can go and install more renewable energy facilities here in the city. So that's the second source of the funding. And the third, as I mentioned earlier, is stimulus funding from the federal government, which is also blended in to help us, particularly with these apartment buildings and installing the electric equipment in the apartment buildings. That's primarily funded by federal funds.
Okay, Ted, thank you very much. Any final words before we end this?
I would say that our city's march towards clean energy didn't start yesterday. It started well over a decade ago. We're very, very proud to say that we are, in my view, leaps and bounds ahead of many of the cities within the United States. Every year, there's an association called the ACEEE, the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, that rates cities in terms of their energy efficiency programs and policies. When I started doing this work 12 or 13 years ago, the District of Columbia was rated in the teens or somewhat in the 30s. The District of Columbia is rated now in the top 5 in terms of cities in the United States. We're very, very proud of the work that we've done. We're rated right up there with New York, Boston, Seattle in terms of some of the most aggressive and progressive cities in the country. I'd like to thank the leadership here in the District of Columbia, inclusive of former mayors Fenty and Gray, who initiated some of these programs and helped get, and of course, foreign council member Mayor Che, who helped get a lot of these legislative policies through the Council of the District of Columbia. Mayor Bowser has been a tremendous champion of the environment here in the District of Columbia and deserves a loud round of applause as well for her tireless work in making sure that these programs are funded, supported, and allowing the city to hit its long-term energy goals. Thank you for allowing me to come here this morning.
No, Ted, DC has bragging rights. I'm happy to know that we have bragging rights. Okay, let me say bye to the viewers, and maybe you can join me in saying bye. Bye, everybody. I'll be back next time with another distinguished guest. Bye for now.
Thank you. Have a great day.